G'day YouTube, Max Wright here. Long time no speak. Yeah, so I'm still on vacation, still not at home, still don't have all my equipment with me, so it's just a little bit hard to make videos. But we'll try our very best. And so I've actually been working a lot, researching a lot with different ideas that are in the crypto market. And I was actually going to just put it all together in this big, long, like a state of the crypto market type address, where I would just talk about all these different things. And it ended up becoming such a big and overwhelming project for me. I think it ended up take too long to do. I kind of abandoned that idea, and so I'm just going to talk about one little piece of the puzzle in this video and in future videos, and maybe have another state of the crypto union address, tying all the things once I've explained them, because I think this is going to spend so much time on each of these little components to understand this new crypto landscape that we're in. And so this one, I want to talk about one of those vectors. And let me just explain vectors for people real quickly. It's if you're a long time subscriber to the channel, you know what I mean. I've spoken about it before, but whenever I talk about anything of any complexity, I always talk about vectors. And this, a very quick analogy is a vector. So it has a magnitude and a direction. And so if you want to know where a sailboat ends up, you need to know that the wind is going at 5 knots north and there's a current going 10 knots east, and you need to add both of those vectors together to find out where the sailboat ends up. And so in the area of economics and markets and forecasting, it's the job is just summing up tens or hundreds or as many as your intellectual capacity can compute of all of these vectors, assigning to them a magnitude and a direction. You know, these are the headwinds, these are the tailwinds, and you add them all up with their appropriate magnitudes, and you try and figure out which ways the wind is going to blow, you know, north or south, price going up, price going down. So it's a very, very important skill to be able to debundle and chunk down, if you will, into these different vectors. So this vector, something that's kind of new that's happened over the last couple of years, is a really, really important vector. And I believe it's a negative for the space in a way. I think there's an unvirtuous cycle, that's not a word, but a negative spiral. I'm going to go with unvirtuous, even though unvirtuous is not a word. There's an unvirtuous cycle between the crypto influencers, us guys on YouTube, and the Twitters and whatever else, and market participants. So if I look around the just the YouTube channels first, I think there's 5 YouTube channels from memory that are over 1 million subscribers each. And here's the interesting thing: every single one of them are totally focused on altcoins, not Bitcoin. So we have this really interesting thing playing out that just didn't exist. Like the crypto market used to be all about Bitcoin and things like money printing or whatever else, and whether people print money or don't print money, that doesn't make a lick of difference to the NFT market. It just doesn't. It's irrelevant. Doesn't matter. Those things are not related. And so there's this different worlds, and the thing, like you can go a couple different ways here. It's easy to say, hey, look. The channels that are focusing on altcoins have grown massively over the last couple of years, way outperform channels that are talking about Bitcoin. And you got a chicken and egg problem. Is it because the price went up in altcoins, and so what happened was then people got interested in altcoins, and then it kind of self-fed, or was it the other way? Was the fundamentals are so much better on altcoins, that went up, and then that drew the eyeballs, and then so which one, chicken or the egg, right? And so I think the entire crypto market is trapped in a little bit of a loop here. And let me tell you why I think it's a negative overall. I think any education is good education. Any kind of notoriety and bringing attention to crypto is good. So there's a component there that's good. But there's another concept here which I think is quite bad, which is if you view like there's this finite thing like a 21 million Bitcoin, and as money poured in, all that could happen was price go up to accommodate that. You just had to bid it up and bid it up and bid it up and bid it up. Well, I just view it as like money pouring into the bucket, or let's look at water pouring into the bucket, and it's it's finite by Bitcoin, and then all of a sudden someone punches a hole in that bucket, and there's money leaking out into what's just an ever increasing sea of altcoins. It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And to be fair, credit where credit's due, Bitcoin's detractors and people who are anti-crypto, they kind of they said this and they predicted this like the whole time. Now, I know that the gold bugs say, look, gold is gold, and we can't add any more elements to the periodic table. We can't. There's some money in silver. Yes, there's some money in gold. Yes, there's some money in titanium and palladium. But you can't add more elements to the periodic table. So yeah, you crypto people, you brag about how Bitcoin's there's only 21 million Bitcoins, but the problem is you can have an infinite number of coins, and I think we're kind of seeing this now. Now I want to pause here because I know there's this horrible war going on in the crypto space between what's called Bitcoin Maxis and basically anti-Bitcoin Maxis. And I want to specify, I might sound like one at the moment. I'm not a Bitcoin maxi. I'm not. I think there's plenty of room for all the coins, and it's just the way it is. I don't think there's going to be one chain to rule them all. I don't think Bitcoin is going to be that, or anything. Just not. So I'm all about all the coins. It's okay. But I just want to acknowledge that I want to acknowledge that. Okay, so the problem is we're trying to fill up the bucket. There's this bucket, and there's water pouring in. That's the investment from people. As more and more people learn about crypto, more money comes in. The problem is the bucket just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, absorbing all of that extra water, and the water level's not rising, i.e. the price isn't going up in Bitcoin for a year, right? Okay, so that's potentially a problem. You could frame that several different ways, just by way of example. Another way to frame that is, look, you got the price going up on alts. You've got, YouTube subscriber lists and channels talking about alts. You've got all these things going on about alts. It's like, isn't this a pretty good idea that maybe alts are going to overtake everything? Bitcoin's just going to wander off into the distance. Isn't that a possibility? It's certainly a possibility. Absolutely, something to consider. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think that's the least likely outcome, but it's something to consider, and it's certainly a valid argument when people make that argument. So now I want to talk about a little bit why there's this kind of unvirtuous cycle going on. When you're an influencer, I mean, most people are not. So, and on my lowly 40,000 subscribers, I humorously call myself an influencer. But hey, I'm on YouTube, so maybe I think I meet the definition. There's interesting stuff that's going on. You always got people asking about, what do you think of this coin? What do you think of this coin? What do you think of this coin? And then from time to time, you go and investigate these coins. When you go and investigate these coins, you either don't like it, in which case, hey, you're an influencer, you need to make content. Maybe you make a video about coin you don't like. You learn pretty quickly. Those videos don't get much views. Like if you're looking at some coin, generally it's fanboys and they want to be pumped up and hear all the good news about the coin, right? But maybe you do a more balanced approach, say the good, the bad, whatever. But you just tend to know, you notice. And you've got a business to do. You want to raise your subscriber count. You want to get those views up. You want to get the money coming in. And you over time, you get pushed away from reporting on bad coins. You report on good coins. Okay, step one. Nothing wrong with that there. By the way, there's nothing wrong with any of this. I'm not anti-influencers and anti-YouTubers. I'm not. So they learn that. Okay, next. So they're making. So generally you tend to make videos about things that you're excited about, things that you want to do. So you go and research this coin. And you get really excited about it. You think you found a really gold nugget here, and you want to make a video and you want to share it to your subscribers because you love them. But you found a coin that you want, and you've got money to deploy, and you want to invest in that coin, right? Well, when do you think you do it? Before you release the video, and you get in at the price that you see, or after you release the video and all the viewers jumped on, bid up the price a little bit, and you buy the same coin 15-20% higher? The answer is, obviously, you're going to do it the first way. And there's nothing wrong in that. There's no shame in that. You were the one who discovered it. You invested it. You made the video. And you report to the fact that, hey, I own this. I bought this as well. I got so excited. I bought this as well. So you're being open and honest and upfront. But the fact is, over time, it's just the way it works out, is that you can really move the market, especially in these low-cap shitcoins. Like, we go down to some of the coins between like 100, 200, 300, 400 down the rank. These big influencers make one video on that. That brings all these extra eyeballs to that coin. It moves the market. And so you have this situation where the influencers they're rewarded. They're basically, their investments are guaranteed. Not absolutely, they're not. But there's a strong headwind to any of their investment. They found it when it was obscure. They make a video out of it. It just got less obscure. It just got more notoriety. It just got more attention. And there's just more people coming in. It's just, even if it was a bad coin that was going to go down 50%, now it only goes down 30%. If it was a great coin, it was going to go up 100%, but now it goes up 200%. That's just the nature of the beast. And I want to really point out here, these influencers are not doing anything wrong. I don't think they're immoral. I don't think they're bad. I'm just saying this is the way that it goes, right? And just human psychology being human psychology, not through fault, not through an attempt to manipulate your subscribers into being the bottom of a pyramid or anything like that, but just because of the way it works. That's just the way it works. There's a massive incentive to create, and you'll notice an immediate bump if you ever make a video about altcoin. I think in my entire channel, I think I've made a video about one altcoin, and I specifically said don't buy it because I thought it was a bad time. But I just know, I speak to them, I know who they are, and I understand the math, how it works on the backside, and I just know, I know what they can make a video, they can buy a coin, make a video about that coin, and see an immediate bump. The big channels can really move that market, and you can see that. You can go and look at, go and pick on any of the big channels, go back a couple months, and see a video they made. They dedicated it to a particular altcoin. Find the date that the video was released, then go and look at the charts. And you go and look at the charts, and just do it for 20 of those. Might not be true for every one of them, but you'll notice a trend. They can move the market. And so you get this thing where there's this immediate dopamine hit. There's this immediate making money over and above what you would make if you made like a Bitcoin video. And you can get your audience excited into this altcoin. You're making money. You're drawing attention to it. You're getting eyeballs. You get an immediate reward. There's 20% bump after you invested in the coin. You can leave it in there. You can take it out, invest it in the next coin. You can do a whole bunch of things. But this is a cycle. And what we don't get to see is what's happening to the viewers who are following this advice. If they might watch this video a week later, 2 weeks later, 5 weeks later, and eventually they come in, research the project. Yeah, that sounds like a good project, and invest their money and all in good faith, and that's fine. I don't have any problem with any of the actors here. I'm not laying blame on anyone. I'm just saying I think there's an unfortunate situation here where there's a negative outcome spiral, where we're growing this bucket. Is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, more and more coins and coins and coins, and bringing in more and more money. And yes, it is taking it out of Bitcoin. I think it's taking it out of Ethereum. I think it's taking it out of whatever. It's just sifting further and further out as this bucket gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think ultimately it's holding back the crypto market. And there's a couple notes on this. About if long-time subscribers of the channel will go, if we go back 6-9 months, Bitcoin dominance starts. There was a huge altcoin. It was altcoin season, big time. I think it was the middle of last year. No, there was the first one happened March, April, May, June of 2021, and just the Bitcoin dominance was plummeting. It went from 70 all the way down to 30, and it bottomed and it picked up and it started rising. It started rising and then it turned around and reversed. I think it's actually it never hit 30. I'm sorry, it went down to 40. It started rising, got up to I think to 47. And then turned around and lay down, came back down to the 40s, been around there the whole time. And when it turned around and laid down, I made several videos. I think I said like every video I made that month, I was like, the crypto market is not going to move in any significant way. I mean, by significant ways always to me is like an order of magnitude. I always care about the 10x's. Everything else to me is just irrelevant. We're not going to get that big leg up into 100,000 Bitcoin. We're not going to get the big leg up into that big move. We're not going to get that until Bitcoin dominance starts to rise. And that has turned out to be a prophetic statement. It has not happened, right? Because there's this issue where just the money comes in and there's so much excitement about all these things going from pennies to thousands of dollars, and it's just the bucket's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, if that thesis is true, then we have some interesting questions to answer for ourselves. Can the price of the crypto market rise without a rise in Bitcoin dominance? Is Bitcoin now? Let me take another tack here. It's entirely possible that Bitcoin is dying. It's like it's going to die. It's going to go to nothing, and Bitcoin dominance is going to end up at zero. And this is just part of a process of funds, wealth, intellectual capital, eyeballs, all flowing into other projects. Maybe Bitcoin's a boring project compared to some of the new things. I don't think that's true, but that's something to consider. Definitely something we want to answer that question. It's going to be outside the scope of this, because this is one of the questions. Like, you add up all the vectors. Right? I'm in the field of one vector here, so I'm not going to answer that big question in this video. But it's something to consider. Okay, but let's step out from that. Let's say that's not the case. Let's say Bitcoin is important. Let's say Bitcoin solves the single greatest problem humanity has ever faced, and it is the best solution that we have for it, and it's going to be a big deal for many years to come. Let's say that. The question is, how does it, in order to achieve that on a worldwide scale and actually change humanity in significant ways, the market cap has to go up another 100x at least. All right? In order for that to happen, what does it look like between here and there? Can it get there while this, as the bucket just gets bigger and bigger and bigger? At some point, the bucket has to snap back and stop, plug the leak in the bucket to complete the analogy. That's what has to happen. So how does that happen? What's the catalyst for that happening, and what do we do about that? Okay, so I think a pretty big, two little bits of information. And by the way, before I share these, I want to say another point. Because I've been away, it's been difficult to record and stuff. The channel's been full of lots of little tidbits from professionals and name people just sharing little ideas. What they're discussing is vectors. And if you go and up to the rest of my series and you kind of understand, oh, Max has got a vector from there, you'll understand I gave you all of the vectors. You could have come up with all of these theses on your own. If you go back and watch those videos, it's all there. Like, it's really powerful stuff. Some people are like, oh, this is boring, I want to hear Max all the time. I'm like, hey, there's a lot of gurus here, and I've chosen some really cool clips. It's a tiny little vector, but it's a vector. You can now take all the vectors, add them all up, and you come up with a cohesive thesis. So I really encourage you to keep on watching those vectors. I put them there for a reason. They're very, very powerful. Okay, for Bitcoin, for this to happen, the thesis is that the Bitcoin dominance needs to go up. How does that happen? What does that happen? Well, a couple little bits we can learn. One, the dot-com bubble. Like, we've seen this rodeo, and we know how it works. Arguably, potentially, there's this, the dot-com bubble. There was just, and it felt very much like this. You put any business and throw blockchain or crypto or make a coin out of it, and venture capitalists will come flying and give you $100 million to start your shitty idea. It's mind-blowing. It's crazy. It's really, really crazy, but that's what's happening. It's happening all over the place. This is very reminiscent of the dot-com bubble. And sometimes there's a lot of stars have to align in order for a business to be successful. Like, something's just timing. Like, some of these ideas are fantastic ideas, and they'll crush it in 10 years. But they're not worth $100 million today. Like, NFTs, I'm sorry, absolute bullshit from start to finish. Absolute idiocy. I'm not saying it's not going to be a big deal. I'm not saying the in-game usage of NFTs isn't going to be a big deal. Eventually, yes, we will get there, and there'll be but the total accumulation of value in the just crazy figures for NFT is absolutely retarded. This makes no sense. I'm not saying it won't be a big deal in the future, but not the valuations that it has. It's not good value today by a long shot, in my opinion. It's just an example of the concept we're talking about here. So where was I going there? I'm going to have to pause. I totally lost it. The analogy of the dot-com bubble. Got it. So when in the dot-com bubble, you just put a .com on any crazy business idea, and you just, bang, your valuation just went ballistic and formed a bubble, right? Now, there was a shakeout, a big shakeout, and everything gets smashed. But then a handful of things survive. The Amazons of the world survive, the Googles of the world survive, the ones with the brilliant, the viable businesses, the good business models, they survive, and they thrive and end up taking over the world, creating the world's richest people, right? So important to understand that that's how that works. Another kind of tying in with that concept is, you're familiar with the adoption curve, right? You know we're somewhere in the order of 10, 11, 12, 13% market adoption for cryptocurrencies, all right? We're at that inflection point where things are about to go mental. There's an interesting thing that happens around 20, 30% market adoption on that adoption curve, is you get a huge market shakeout. Go back and visit the tech boom and the internet era, and you go back. How many search engines were there? there was Google, there was Alta Vista, there was Yahoo, and if you're a little bit older than me, you could probably recall 10 others that I can't even, I don't know, I was a kid, I don't even know. But there were heaps. There were heaps and heaps and heaps of these search engines. And eventually it got whittled down to 2. It was like Yahoo and Google. And then eventually it got whittled down to 1. It was just Google. And then that monopoly caused corruption. And now there's other things like DuckDuckGo and other people responded. But for a long time there, for all intents and purposes, there was one search engine. That's it, one search engine. But before that, there was dozens, just dozens, and they were everywhere. And then there was this industry shakeout, and 90% of things just go to shit. Now, here's what I believe. At some point, there has to be a rolled up newspaper smack on the nose to punish all of these ridiculous investments and just insane valuations on some of these projects. NFTs would be my big one that I just really there's just ridiculous value in there. It makes no sense to me. DeFi has a little bit more merit, but again, it's so early, the valuations are just not appropriate in my opinion. And so at some point, there's going to be this shakeout, and people are going to lose money. It's kind of like what bear markets are for. If you just go back so 2017 happens, and it's the ICO craze. It's like round 1 of exactly what we're going through now. Ethereum gets born. Well, Ethereum was born a little bit earlier, but Ethereum's born, and it allows an ICO craze, and it's unregulated. Unsophisticated investors are allowed to jump in and just pile onto these stupid ideas. And you've got kids writing an 8-page white paper, no business experience, no ideas, don't have the skills to execute on their idea, write an 8-page white paper, and all of a sudden they've raised $50 million. It was ridiculous, 2017. And what had to happen was this big slap in the face to the marketplace and go, you guys have got to pull your heads in, you're stupid, and everyone's got to suffer. Bitcoin goes down like 80 to 90%. Most of these altcoins go down 99%, 97%. A good chunk of those ones that were big at the time, Steemit, BitShares, just a huge ones, names I don't remember because they're just not even here. And then all of a sudden, here's this new wave, right? And what was fascinating about this whole situation here is that I think the understanding of what happened was so good that we as a marketplace front ran everything. It's like, oh, the halving's happened. That's going to mean the Bitcoin price is going to go. And it should go up, about 6x over 2 years. Well, think up 6x over 2 years. It went up 6x over 2 months. And well, after the Bitcoin leaves, there's now all this extra wealth, and now all these rich people believe they're geniuses, that they're crazy good investors, and then they start going and looking for new and better things to invest in, and then that all leaks down into the alt market, and so then they have this big altcoin season, and then there's a big crash, and the whole thing takes 2 years. This thing all played out in like 4 months. It was crazy. Like everyone just knew what was going to happen, and they just ran around doing their thing, and they executed the whole 2-year cycle in like 4 or 5 months. And we're like, okay, well, what do we do now? We've got 2 more years to go, and we've got nothing to do. And this has been our challenge. And I think so. At some point, the altcoiners have to get hurt in order for the entire crypto market to go forward. And I think Bitcoiners will get caught up in that and get hurt too. But I believe the leak in the bucket is so strong and so gaping wide that it can't get fixed until there's a big event and people get crushed. So that's one option. The one option is there's this big downward correction and Bitcoin gets hurt a lot. The other things get hurt even more. There's this fear and uncertainty about these crazy valuations in the altcoin market, and money just comes back into Bitcoin, grows there, and the Bitcoin dominance rises, and the price goes up, and we're into the next kind of phase of the next leg up. There's an alternative that we could do the same thing, but as a time correction, as opposed to a quick event. I would rather a quick event, get it done, move on to the next phase. I would like that. Unfortunately, it might not go that way. We might get a time correction. We might drift. Money pouring in, crypto market getting bigger. So the total crypto market valuation, let's add up the market value of all the coins. It gets bigger, but on average, none of the coins go up. There's just more and more coins. And so the total market caps gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And it just spreads out to an increasing the bucket just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. As opposed to, yeah, it's a different analogy, holding the bucket. This one, the analogy is the bucket just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So yeah, so these are my thoughts. Now, if you listen to this, you might think I'm really, really negative on crypto or Bitcoin or altcoins or whatever. Remember, you just heard one vector. One vector. There are a lot of other vectors that need to be considered, and we just heard one vector. So from this vector, I would like for you guys to assign a magnitude and a direction. Is this concept that I've talked about, is it good or bad for Bitcoin price? Is it good or bad for altcoin prices? And assign a magnitude to it. Let's give it a rating out of 10. Now, it doesn't mean anything when you're rating one vector. The weighting of it is, but once you have other vectors, and one has a weighting of 10 and one has a weighting of 2, now you compare. So this is our very first vector. So, but come up with how big a vector this is in holding back crypto prices in your mind. And as we talk about some of the other vectors, then you have a comparison. Okay, compared to that, this issue is bigger or smaller or whatever. Okay, go ahead. Let me know in the comments below. Good to speak to you guys again. I'm sorry for not communicating more. I had some stuff in my life, just not at home, a whole bunch of things. But hopefully I get to do more, but we'll see how it plans out. I'll try my best, but I can't guarantee it. Okay, guys, take care. Like button, subscribe button, all the good things that help me out. Take care. Bye.